and Human Services is the agency that oversees the vetting of homes for these unaccompanied migrant minors. The department, once run by Secretary Xavier Becerra under Joe Biden.
The same Javier Becerra who now wants to be California's governor and is looking to sideline Republican Steve Hilton in November.
This is a very big moment for California because we have the chance to change the trajectory of this state. People are fed up after 16 years of one-party rule. These candidates the Democrats are putting forward, they're useless and hopeless. You've got Javier Becerra, Biden's incompetent health secretary. Even Biden cabinet officials say that he was useless.
For more on this, we're joined by author, historian, and all-around badass, Hoover Institution senior fellow, Victor Davis Hanson. So great to see you. Victor, I know that Tom Steyer, he didn't make it to the finals, had cut and run ads hitting Javier Becerra on this, but it's even unimaginable the suffering these children went through. Chemical burns on overnight factory shifts, like 13-year-olds. They had their limbs mangled by conveyor belts. Some fell to their deaths from a roof. These were children who were essentially sold into like indentured servitude.
Yeah, well, the problem is that when you're on the left and you're dealing with immigration issues and other issues too, you feel you get an exemption that you're useful, so that why pick on you? And that creates laxity and criminality. So basically Becerra operated with the idea that I don't really care too much about if we can't find certain children, because the media and the Democratic machine will protect me and I don't have to worry, I have other worries. He was very nonchalant. And then of course he knew that when they went out of office, suddenly that would be Trump's liability. It's like the cages with Obama. He built these detention centers, and he was the one that came up with the idea, and they thought it was great. And as soon as he got out of office, then all of a sudden that Trump was putting people in cages. Becerra has a long history in California. I mean, I'm not so sure that Steve Hilton's right that he's useless. He's kind of toxic. He had a chief of staff for over 20 years who embezzled $200,000, and she had worked for Gavin Newsom, and she still hasn't really paid the price for that. And it was completely exemption. All he did the first time that Trump was in office, this first tenure, he was in the news every 2 weeks. He filed a lawsuit against Donald Trump, no matter what it was, environmental, immigration, you name it. So he was a political hack, and he has no contributions or no achievements in any of his posts as a representative, as attorney general, or working in the Biden cabinet. And so he's running as the idea that I'm the only viable left-wing person on the ticket. Steyer's a billionaire, Porter's imploded, Swalwell's out. I'm the only person, and vote for me because I'm a Democrat, but don't look at my record because there is no record to run on.
I think what I find so insidious about it, Victor, is in order to preserve the Biden administration's #1 goal of an open border, they were willing to put hundreds of thousands of children at risk, and they didn't even really try. 85,000 children, they tried one phone call to see how they're doing, couldn't reach them, gave up on it. That goes beyond like politically useful. That is craven.
It is, but I think they looked at them as all constituents. So they couldn't stop the wall. It had already been approved, and they just let the steel, rust, and they tried to destroy the wall or not do anything. And the same thing with the children, the same thing with the 10,000 people coming across. We know now that certain particular diseases have spiked because we had no medical audit at all. We know we had 500,000 criminals. They didn't care about children. They didn't care about criminals. They didn't care about health or background checks. They didn't care about anything other than getting 10 to 12 million people in here as quickly as possible, get them on public support, and have a loyal constituency, because they don't have an agenda that appeals to 51% of the present voting constituency. So they always either try to change the system, pack the court, get rid of the filibuster, get rid of the electoral or bring in new constituency, but they never talk about an opposite or opposing agenda because they don't have any that people would approve of.
Moving on to, you talk about rare diseases. They would crop back up among the homeless population in Los Angeles. And the Trump administration is moving to cut off funding to what we should call the homelessness industrial complex, the Homeless Services Agency in Los Angeles, because these agencies don't end the problem, because they would cease to exist if they did, Victor.
Yeah, they enrich, and I mean that literally, they enrich these concerns that after they get federal money, they're supposed to be the custodians of it, and they just waste it. But even the homeless are a constituency, because we know now that in the memorial race, people went out from Rahman's campaign, maybe Bass's too, went to the homeless and said, look, you can register today and you don't have to even know how to write your name. You don't even have to have an ID. Here's your ID number. Make a happy face mark. I'll witness it. Therefore, you're registered, and then you can vote, and there's your ballot. And we'll turn it in at a voting center that's run by our cronies. And that's what they did. So the homeless are also a constituency that they feel that are valuable in close elections. If Spencer Pratt had been 50 points bagged or 10 points, they wouldn't have bothered with it. When they saw it was a close race, they pulled out all the stops and even tried to deal with the homeless. And they had the apparatus and the bureaucracy that had been used to the homeless, and they used it. Mm-hmm. And we never know how many homeless people voted, but we do know you don't have to have an ID, a credible ID, to register, and you can register and vote the same day, and you have no ID required to vote. And you don't even have to write your name. You can make a mark.
I tell you what, it's a rip-off. The rip-off scheme is the money these guys enrich themselves with, Victor Davis Hanson, and I'm glad to see the money is stopping the flow.